Chapter 4: Employers versus Employees. A quote from Law 24. "We who toil for other people have all in some way been captured by pirates and sold into slavery." End quote. It should be said plainly. Employment is nothing more than the next step in the evolution of slavery. The corporation you are employed by has a psychopathic level of indifference as to whether you live or die. This is not left-wing political rhetoric. It is a Machiavellian reality you will have to contend with. Your employer is not your ally. They are your adversary. It is in your best interest for wages to be as high as possible, while it is in your employer's best interest for wages to be as low as possible. Paradoxically, they are an adversary you must work with, and an adversary who you must charm for the sake of maximizing your odds of being promoted. When dealing with your employer, you must hide the existence of the conflict of interest between you and them as much as possible. Yes, it will always exist, and you'll never have an employer so naive that they don't realize it. However, you must never be overtly hostile towards your employer. Being overtly disagreeable towards a superior in any context will result in them using whatever power they wield over you to wreck you. In the case of an employer, it would result in instantly being fired. This may all sound obvious, yet many otherwise intelligent employees have lost their jobs because they ignored this, if only for a few seconds. Balance of power. In many relationships, dependency is what governs the balance of power. Whichever party needs the other less wields power over the other. Employment relationships are the epitome of this. Generally speaking, the balance of power heavily favors the employer. Most employees are desperate for their wages, whereas most employers are not desperate for labor, or at least they aren't desperate for the labor of any specific employee. In most employment relationships, the employer holds immense power over the employee, while the employee holds little to no power over the employer. If the employer were to suddenly fire the employee, it would be catastrophic for the employee. If the employee were to suddenly quit their job, it would be a minor inconvenience for the employer. If you are ever in a situation where your employer needs you more than you need them, understand that such a case is exceptional. Optimizing dependency. As an employee, do what you can to maximize your employer's dependency on you and minimize your dependency on them. To maximize your employer's dependency on you, be as useful to them as possible. Be so useful that if you were to suddenly die in a car crash, your superiors would actually lose sleep over it. It is unrealistic to think you can be so deeply entangled within your employer's operations such that if you were to disappear they would experience catastrophe. However, it is very realistic to become entangled deeply enough within their affairs such that if you were to suddenly disappear, it would mean valuable time and energy lost in finding someone to replace you. To minimize your dependency on your employer, ensure you always have other job opportunities available. On a continuous basis, you should have conversations with headhunters. Side business. Keep it a secret. The ultimate way to minimize your dependency on your employer is this. Have a side business that generates enough profit to cover all your basic living expenses. Employers want wage slaves who are 100% dependent on them for their income. If it is known that you have a side business, you will not fall into this category. If your employer finds out that you have a source of income besides them, they will fire you, or at best keep you around, but never promote you. As such, you must create and maintain a side business in secret. In life, you have two choices. be an ignorant fool or a brilliant strategist. Buy the audiobook now. To learn how to be the latter, scroll down to find the link in the description. Click on the link. Purchase it now. Listen to the entire audiobook from start to finish. Then, watch your life transform.